Hi there guys, I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech and this is the camera review of the Xiaomi 11i. Now this is how the phone looks on the front and this is how the phone looks on the back. This phone has a triple camera setup on the rear with a 108 megapixel primary camera followed by an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera with 120 degree field of view and a 2 megapixel camera for taking macro shots. For selfies, we get a 16 megapixel camera. Now here's the camera interface. It looks pretty similar to other Xiaomi phones. Now these are some sample shots. First we'll start off with selfies. Color reproduction looks pretty good, skin tone looks pretty natural. There is a bit of post-processing going on, but overall images look pretty good. Dynamic range and exposure control are pretty nice. Now these are some portrait selfies. Most of the time, edge detection is pretty good. Color reproduction is also pretty good, just like selfies, and the skin tones also look pretty good. Now these are some selfies taken in low lighting conditions. Once again, colors look pretty decent. There is a bit of grains in the edges, but that's to be expected in low lighting conditions. Now these are some selfies taken with night mode on. Obviously selfies taken with night mode on look better than the regular selfies. Now here's a sample footage recorded using the front-facing camera. Color reproduction is good, image is pretty sharp, exposure control and dynamic range are also pretty nice. As for stabilization, it looks pretty stable. Stabilization offered by the phone. Initial impressions, I must say, stabilization is pretty good. It can be used for vlogging as well, and the audio, you can give a judgment for it. Now these are some sample shots from the rear camera. All the pictures have good exposure control and the colors look pretty vivid. Dynamic range is great and all pictures have good sharpness, and the color temperature is slightly to the cooler side. Now these are some sample shots taken with the wide angle camera. Exposure control and dynamic range looks good. Colors also look pretty good, close to natural colors. As for color temperature, it is slightly to the cooler side. Now these are some macro shots. This phone does a pretty good job with taking macro shots, especially the color reproduction is pretty good. Now these are some portrait shots taken with the rear camera. Edge detection is pretty good, colors are also pretty accurate, and the dynamic range and exposure control are pretty well managed. Now even though this phone has a 108 megapixel camera, by default, all the pictures are compressed using pixel binning. But for some reason, if you want to take a 108 megapixel picture, you have to use the dedicated 108 MP mode. So pictures taken in this mode are much bigger with a lot more resolution and obviously with lot more details. These are some sample shots. Now these are some pictures taken in low lighting conditions. In low lighting conditions, this phone does a pretty decent job. Pictures are slightly to the softer side, that's to be expected. And the color temperature is slightly to the cooler side. In complete darkness, if you use the flash, you'll definitely get better results. And the colors also look pretty accurate and the sharpness is also pretty decent. Now these are some pictures taken with a wide angle camera in low lighting conditions. Now we also have the dedicated night mode for the rear camera, and these are the sample shots. Overall, images taken with night mode are much brighter and slightly more sharper than the regular shots. In indoor lighting conditions, images look much brighter. Now let's look at the sample footage from the rear camera. Now this video is being recorded at 1080p resolution at 30 fps. This phone has electronic image stabilization and the stabilization also looks pretty good. Color reproduction is nice, colors look slightly faded but they are close to accurate colors. Now this is the sample footage recorded using the wide angle camera. Even with the wide angle camera we have electronic image stabilization and the stabilization also looks pretty good. Next, we can also record videos in 4K resolution on this phone, and this is the sample footage recorded in 4K resolution but downscaled to 1080p. When you record videos in 4K resolution, there's no stabilization, so the footage is shaky. Besides that, rest of the aspects are pretty good. So guys, what do you think about the camera performance of this phone? Do let me know by commenting below this video. With that said, this is Nikhil signing off. See you in my next video.